All right, everybody. Hello. How's everybody doing? Let's turn off my phone so we don't have any senseless distraction. And them already enough. Play nice. And today is going to be very, should I say it, interesting, probably, because we are going to be revisiting, could say, an old friend. It's called Mantra Application Architecture, back in the day by Kadira. So we'll be looking at that, seeing if we can actually kind of make it work again for the recent Meteor changes and everything. So I think that's going to be super interesting, and I'll see what we can make here. I would highly encourage everybody to comment and contribute to this, so it's not just me putting everything out there. I would also like to announce that probably here I'll have to get it up on the website and further beyond that I will be, or I am doing something called retainers. So I'll start with that while we wait for everybody else to jump in here. Let's see how we have people mostly on YouTube. Good. Don't forget to grab some tea or coffee for yourself. Also, let me please know how is the mic. I had been having a bit of an issue with it, so let me know how that goes. So first, I'll introduce what I'm kind of trying to do with retainers here. That's my, I would say, probably last attempt to get more monetization out of open source here and provide back additional value this year. And anything else will have to come next year, probably. Probably also related to what we'll be doing here. Then I will be talking about Mantra. We'll be seeing what we can do, probably starting a new repository and everything, cloning it and whatnot. So first, let's take a look at what I'm doing here while we wait potentially for more people. So what does retainer actually mean? Retainer means that I or whoever has the retainer is on call for whenever you need that person. So in my case, what I am kind of, offering here is, I'm your, you could say, open source / Meteor expert on call. So I will be focusing on making sure that your dependencies are, at least that you know where your dependencies are going, what's going on in the community, so that you can spend more time on, developing your application, your business. I'll take care of watching your dependencies, the community as a whole, and then I can give you, say weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, or how often do you need to do briefings, and specifically tailored to your needs. And of course, if there is something big coming like Meteor 3, that I'll keep you up to date. I'll prepare a plan of action, what you need to do. And if the retainer is big enough, then of course I'll also be helping you with any migrations or anything else that comes to mind, and potentially even helping you build specific functionality. And this is still kind of early preview, so feel free, guys, to let me know what do you think. Right now, the one that I already have on my GitHub sponsors is the startup tier at 250 euros, dollars a month. So pretty much what is there is there. And I have growth tier with each of the tiers has like specific hours of included consultations and additional work. Plus, of course, each of these include discounts on my existing consultation as well. So 1,000 euros, 2,500 euros, and of course, then yearly options, and then 5,000 euros or 50,000 a year, which of course are in limited capacity because then I'm doing quite a lot. So including possibly on-site visit for training, mentoring, and also work on helping you work on your project as well. So that is something that I will be uh, offering soon. So feel free to let me know if there's something is of interest, or if if that's not what you would like, or if you don't think I will have any success with that. As mentioned, you can at least the startup tier is already available and has been for a while on my GitHub sponsors, so that one is very easily available to everyone. And now, actually, first there has been Meteor guys made out of a kind of interview that I did with them, like an article. So that's something I have to actually also read myself later on. But let's look here at Mantra and what do we have here? So 9 years old application architecture for Meteor. Two main goals: high maintainability and being future proof. So those are the goal. Then we have an actual specification. Let's see, do we have it here? Spec, yes. And let's see. So that's all here. Let's see, how does this build? Specs, mantra.md. Okay, spec md. So first of all, what I'm going to do this, because really not much there, I'm going to, of course, fork it. Should I put it under Literary Universe? Maybe the final product. So let's create a fork. Let's get it locally. And let's see, clone repo and Meteor, and I'm just going to do mantra. There we go. No submodules, and I want to do here remote. Of course, you must have add the Kadira HQ, the original remote, just in case that there is something. Okay, so they have deployed to GitHub pages. I will have to check how they have done it, so I can potentially do the same. But right now, let's probably go with Visual Studio Code. So that's a bit more lightweight. We don't really need anything fancy for this repository. Close this. Okay, Visual Studio, you would be so kind and start up. Because if not, I have WebStorm waiting, though I would prefer not to, because it might be a bit unnecessarily heavy. So interesting. My Visual Studio is not starting, so Meteor, and where do we have it? Mantra. It has appeared. And I shall put it in a new window. There we go. So, sure, create a good ignore. And let's see, changelog version 2.1. Adding here some new stuff. So we'll see. We'll have to kind of then do it. But we have in roadmap. Let's see what was planned in there so that we can kind of get to it and potentially include that in our changes as well. So mantra tutor. Oh wow. I don't remember tutor at all, but definitely well, maybe very, very vaguely. That is, I doubt it's online. Nope, no longer online. Mantra Yeoman generator, yes. So yeah, so this has been already released. Getting ready for SSR. Shape up the spec a bit. Mantra tutor. Wow, that is something that is it over here? Mantra fast render. 64 repositories. Come on. A lot of this will be outdated. Let's see if we can find the tutor. Mantra tutor lessons. Say hello to ES 2015. Introduction to ES 2015, bullet package 3. Have you ever tried reading your source code of a new JavaScript app or module, for example, understanding the following code? Oh, classes. Really have not, I think, survived that much there in JavaScript. Okay, so Mantra Tutor, looking at this was just was for the just updating on all the different things that came up with everything, which man, such a wonderful many things here that it's very sad. I'm very saddened that it never really made it. So let's get back over here. So Mantra Tutor. Let's just say this is a kind of sneak peek for everybody here. Mantra Tutor will be making a comeback, probably with some other things. So let's keep it on the timeline. Yeoman generator will definitely need real world open source app on Mantra. Let's see, February 3rd week, early March. Mantra linter. Oh. Let's not put a date on that. But yay, yes. So example using Mantra with different state management tools, Redux, no, Relay, no. Let's see, GraphQL, Rx.js. Let's just keep with this. A UI harness. You learn so many interesting things even if you're looking at old projects. Is this still a thing? UI harness. No, or maybe it's under unsecured page. Come on. No. Let's see if we can maybe get it under the archive on the Wayback Machine. There is something. Let's jump to 2019. It's a few years. Oh no, nothing there. So we are looking at, I would say, 2015. That's around the time probably when this was being built. Something's coming up. Drumroll. Isolate, test, and document modular UI with Meteor. Okay. Let's look a bit further. Ooh. Let's see. Nope. Yeah. Right. Looks like sadly this never came to fruition. Let's look a few years later. Oh, there's something here. Version 4 coming soon. Let's check if we have any collective memory on the forums about UI harnessed. I installed UI harness, quick start isolation step, add a start script pointing to your entry folder. Okay, so it was a thing. Let's see if detailed search is going to help us here. Apparently not. It never made it probably kind of beyond. Let's see. Yeah, it has been archived. Isolate test UI interact with. Okie dokie, interesting. This looks like a bit like one of the early examples of storybook. Yeah, not entirely. There are certain similarities there, but looks like it. Of course, since we have storybook, then who would want to be doing anything else there? So there was Mantra Designer. So a lot of interesting things here in the roadmap that we learned. Of course, if it was done, so Mantra tutor, that's something for another time to talk about. Yeoman generators or something similar will be needed in order, I think, for this to gain any traction. We'll need a real open source app on Mantra. Bulletproof Meteor with Mantra. Okay, there's a lot of things coming here together for me, guys. It's just It's like I don't want to say it because then people will get expectation that something good might happen, and then it might just result that I won't have time to even come close. But bulletproof meteor and let's see. Bulletproof meteor was related to, and somebody has stolen the domain, or maybe not, or maybe yes. Yeah, it's just somebody got the domain and that's it. So we have to again go to the forums, and I do believe I might have the old PDF for that somewhere in my personal archives of books. Would it be here? Or will I have that? No, so there was Discover Meteor. That's the one. Which one was bulletproof? Was that something that Arunoda was doing? No, so it was Matthew Platts. Or maybe not. But definitely it was a book. It was let's see if I might have it over here. No. Nope. I don't have that one at all. So guys, let me know if anybody has anything on Bulletproof Meteor. Would love to kind of get more on that. So we have to scratch this. Have to see what the mantra designer would be look like afterwards. So now we go into the spec here. So let's see what we can do here. This is restriction for mantra application architecture created by Kadir.io. And now let's just put it here, and just in case I ever get to publish it. So so we have that copyright, and see 2024. Okay, and now we have here overview components, their layout, future work contributing, and we have appendices. So let's get started. Let's get into this down the memory lane, you could say, and let's see. Soft wrap, yes. So mantra is an application architecture for Meteor with Mantra, we are trying to achieve two main goals. Maintainability is a key factor for success and working with large teams. We achieve this by unit testing every part of your app while follow standards for everything. Then it's easy to onboard the new users and work with teams. Yep, that's the golden. That's the kind of what we desire to go for. JavaScript is a land of choices. We have more than one best solution for each problem. It can be hard to tell what's the best solution now and what will change in the future. True. Mantra relies on a set of core principles that will last for a long time. Then we allow others to change as needed. Let me actually get here. Zoom in a bit more. So, what is inside Mantra? It has a modern React based UI component layer. I would like to extend this to be React or Solid based because I think Solid is maybe potentially the future for Meteor, at least if you want to use JSX. That kind of also was like a epiphany this morning, or that I had, was how React is moving more to become pretty much just a front end for Versal based, or what are they now? It's something else, but Next.js and other similar things that deploy on that hosting service. And so yeah, we'll see. Maybe Solid might be moving in similar direction. But if that's kind of the case where everything is moving towards, then I guess we might potentially see resurrection of Blaze just for Meteor. But that's the big question itself. We have also Vue as a big contender, but personally, from what I've seen, my preference here would be Solid. The only issue I had when trying to implement it was no good intl package that was usable for my use case. So because they only had those, there are actually two main use cases for intl, how it's done, or like for localization. Number one is, that was the one in Solid, where you just write it into the special component, and then you have a tool that gathers all the strings and puts them into translation file for the translators to handle. Second one is that you have an ID and, like, let's say, a default message, and then you have the language files. I prefer this one because it kind of stops the creeps, because then you're much more likely to look around if you have already translation for what you are trying to do and say. So I prefer that much more. Plus, it's I would say for the tools also less likely to change as much for the translator. So it's, I would say, more stable. State management is not provided by Mantra itself, but it allows you to use a wide variety of state managements, including Meteor Tracker, Redux, RJ, nearly anything else. I'll have to revisit this because I think we kind of need to definitely put in GraphQL. I don't know anything about Redux. I think that's kind of out of date these days. RxJS, promises. So let's just try to keep it to Meteor and Tracker. Let's not be too over ambitious here. One step at a time. It has a way to integrate both states and actions into UI components by composing containers. This, I think we have to put a pin here and come back to it. It allows you to inject dependencies. Again, we have to put a pin back to it because this is quite an old way of React. It helps you to unit test UI, actions, and integrations containers. It has standards for directory layout, file naming, and everything else. Well, that's kind of nebulous, everything else. What is Mantra not? It is not an application platform. An application platform takes care of bundling, network transport, deployment, etc. Mantra uses Meteor as the application platform. Nice. It's not boilerplate, even though we have directory structure. It's not a code generator. We might have a code generator tool, but that's not core part of Mantra. Yes. What is Mantra? It's a set of standards for how to architect a Meteor app. It also comes with a set of created libraries that help you implement Mantra on top of Meteor. Via spec, Mantra is an application architecture. There will be a lot of stakeholders for Mantra, including app developers, tool builders, tutorial authors, and project managers. So it's very important to have a common standard everyone follows. That's what the specification does. So before you read, this section is written in a simple language. However, you might feel more comfortable if you have a sound knowledge of the following areas. So React Solid, React Containers. Let's check again so that we kind of get on to the same thing. I think React Containers are no longer a thing. So separation of concerns, React, how to use containers and presentation components. So I think, okay, so it's still a thing, but in a different way. Logic, presentation. I think this needs a different name because it may be confusing. How to replace container components with React hooks. Since React 16, it's become so much easier to build and develop components with the help of functional components and hooks. We are going to leverage these capabilities here and replace the container component with a hook. So it is a hook. Okay, interesting. Extract the logic data and post container command to hook. This hook will return an object that constant is loading post and our values. Now we can simply remove the container component then rather than passing the container data. Okay. The big thing here I have is I still need to figure out, I'm not sure if we can get to it today, but I need to figure out how to test or how to mock hooks in some nice manner. Because once I can do that, then of course testing becomes a relatively breeze, because then I can just extract everything into hooks and whatnots and be happy. So let's just keep that here. Let's keep the containers. Refer to Appendix A to learn more about the above areas. Okie dokie, core components. Here are the core components of Mantra, how they are organized. Mantra gives special attention to the client side of your app. Mantra does not mix the client and server code together. Instead, it recommends code sharing. Here are the reasons why. Client side is where you put in a lot of effort. It's the biggest part of your code base. Server side code is relatively simpler to manage and organize. In the future, client-side apps will interact with the server using a schema. Client-side apps will have no idea how the server was implemented. That has pretty much come true to certain respect. Mantra does not believe in universal apps. Say no to isomorphic apps. Okay, that's interesting. It encourages multiple apps for different platforms With code sharing, then it's common to have a single server to interact with a few client apps. Ooh, I won't be able to access this anymore. No, it goes to some nonsense. So let's go back to Wayback Machine and hope that somebody has archived this. Yes, let's take a look. No! Oh, wait, okay, it's redirecting. Say no to isomorphic. Let's see if maybe it exists still today. No. Maybe if we can find it, where is search here? Say no to isomorphic apps. Shite. This is going to be, yeah, not on Medium. Let's see if maybe another snapshot. Or I might have to probably figure out how to find Arunoda or Kadira up here. Kadira voice, that looks like it. Yes. Story behind storybooks, IO. Tools, releasing Storybook 2, Storybook knobs. I remember those. Snapshot testing. I hate that Medium doesn't have here like more, because there's definitely more. And it just won't show it. Okay, here we go. Archive. Say no. Here we go. Say no to universal apps. If you build modern apps, especially in Meteor, you're probably heard of universal apps. In circle, I suggest that you stop building universal apps. Don't panic. Read to the end. You will see why. Okay. If we're having, let's see what happens web and mobile ecosystem in the future. The web will become supercharged, and I'll get a lot of new features. Mobile web performance will increase a lot. That happened. Mobile user penetration will rise as usual. Yes. Web usage won't die, but usage will be reduced. Yes. iOS and Android will get more native features and apps will utilize them. Yes. Not sure how he means that, but let's say yes. So about user experiences. Okay, doesn't have the resource to build native mobile apps. That's a valid point. The answer is don't build mobile apps. Instead, improve your app's mobile web experience. You can do this by applying some style changes and thinking about where to put things. Once you do so correctly, mobile users will use it. And now they're using web app, but not an app. So they don't look for app-like experience. Instead, they look as it as mobile web app. Okay, I think I have a solution for us here. And first of all, let's fix the link here. And there's a belief in universal apps. And here's multiple apps for different platforms with code sharing. This is, in our case, apps for different platforms with code sharing and usage of progressive web applications. So because that's kind of the new thing that wasn't there back in the days that we have today, which is progressive web applications, PWA. So that's what we kind of want to use. Based on the above factors, it's not a good idea to mix client and server codes together. We shall see how that proceeds. When we discuss mantra further in the specification, it will be about the client side of your app. Interesting. I might even prefer to have something on the server as well, but that's a different story. However, most of the apps will have server-side components. So we have directory layout for the server as well for that appendix B. And again, software app, so we can read better. Server-side directory layout. Rely on different features of ES 2015. You need to use, which comes to implement of the okay. I think we can modern ECMAScript features of modern ECMA/JavaScript. Let's put it like that. And its module system. In order to use Mantra, you need to use Meteor. And we are going to change this. Meteor 3. Yes, let's just keep it like that, Meteor 3. At least Meteor 1.3, preferably, but really you should be using Meteor 3 plus. So React as the UI. We use React as the present layer mantra. I would like to really go and add solid there as well from what I already said. UI components should not know anything about the rest of the app and should not read or modify the application state. Data and event handlers used to render the UI component should be passed in via props from containers or passed in as action props from inside event handlers. It is sometimes necessary to use temporary local state inside UI components, but that state should never be referenced outside of its own component. Yes. When writing your UI components, you can include any other React component. Here are some places you can import React components. Other UI components you define in your app, UI components from npm, any containers in your app. We'll talk about this in a moment. Okay. You can also import any library function and use them in the UI components. You can import them directly for npm module, but not from any Meteor packages. These functions should be pure. Ooh, let's see, just so that we can refresh everybody. Pure function is function that has the following properties. The function return value are identical for identical arguments. No variation with local static variables, non-local variables, mutable reference arguments, or input streams, i.e. referential transparency. And the function has no side effects. No mutations of local static variables, non-local variables, mutable reference arguments, or input-output streams. Okay. Here's a simple UI component. Let's see. I will be making some changes here. Just the export. Last name post list, all post map. Da-da-da-da-dum. Looks great. Okay, actions. Actions are where you write the business logic in your app. These includes validations, state management, interacting with remote data sources. I'll have to make a lot of changes in my app because these needs to be kind of out. But that's fine. It's just because I've gotten lazy, I would say, in the past, or haven't really understood it when I first started using the mantra back in the days. And then since it was no longer developed, I have moved on. An action is a simple function that accepts the first argument as the whole application context. Okay, we'll get there. Section application context in your app. Other arguments usually come when invoking the action. Ooh, I think we will have to probably really discuss this. Note, inside an action, everything you do should be based on the application context and other arguments passed to the action. You should not import any ES 2015 module except libraries. You should also avoid using global variables inside actions. Here are some actions. So create. We have here, so Meteor local state flow router. Title content. And then we have clear errors. Local state. Which I might have like maybe one last usage of it. But now we can just put everything into the MongoDB or mini Mongo, and it should be happy. So it's a local state, Meteor.UUID. I think that's an official, might be an extension from Mantra. There is a method stub for this in the config method stubs. That's how we are doing latency compensation. Oh, so it even went one step further than to put all the methods on the server, and it does method stubs. I am doing that pretty dirty, I would say. In my application, I just have it all in the same area. Okay, I see we have more people joining us. Hello, everybody. Please be sure to comment if you have used Mantra in the past. You know what Mantra is, or have before this broadcast, and let me know what you think about some of the proposals here and changes. I'll have to probably, before I start editing actions and other things, we'll have to kind of look further on. The big thing here is including the application state here at the beginning. I do remember Mantra had some functionality potentially. There's like a specific package, so something to look at. But I would, if possible, I would like to make Mantra as least requiring any like package, that you can pretty much build it yourself without any specific Mantra package. That would be my goal here. State management. In an app, we need to deal with different kinds of states. We can divide them into two different categories. Local state in the client side, app that will never be synced with a remote server. Errors, validation messages, current page. Remote state, this is the state usually fetched from a remote server and synced with. We have different solutions for managing states, including Meteor/Minimongo, that's remote state, Tracker, Reactive Dict, that is the local state thing there. That's local state. Flow router, again, local state. Redux, local state. GraphQL, remote state. Falcor. So let's remove these two because I don't really care. And we can just probably keep it. Let's take a look if Falcor is still around. Oh, it's a Netflix thing. A JavaScript library for efficient data fetching. One model everywhere. Data is the API bind to cloud. So this is, at least from this description, like a REST version of GraphQL. uh, oh, seriously, nobody's going to use Falcor, hopefully, with Meteor. You can keep Redux for the old folks. This is where a lot of innovation is happening in the JavaScript community. So Mantra is flexible when it comes to state management. You can use anything you want. Yes, although I think it's kind of settled at least a little bit, but there's still, of course, onslaught of new options for this. For example, you can use the following. You have when starting, Meteor Mini Mongo, Tracker Reactive Div, Flow Router. Have to figure out how to really put React Router into this. Later on, you can move to a different solution. Note how our mantra enforces a few rules when managing your states. Any write operations to states should be done inside an action. You can read states in both actions and containers. You should not read or write into states directly inside UI components. Yes, because it all comes from containers. So you have like a container that fetches the data, the states, and UI components are just, stupid, only doing what the props tell them to do, nothing beyond that. UI components should know nothing about the states in your app. Exactly. Right now I have a bit of a mix, so it's not good. See the follow links for some usage of states. Okay, so it's on GitHub, sample blog app. We'll have to review this, and since it's sample blog app, okay, yeah, we'll have to review that one within the new paradigm. Containers are integration layer in Mantra. They perform these actions. Use state to modify variables and pass them into UI components via props. Pass action into UI components. Pass items in application context into UI components. Container is a React component. Containers are composed using React Composer. Nope. It sounds different. It supports different data sourcing with Meteor and nearly anything else. This needs to be gone. Sadly, this is because back then it was all about composability. So you had like this, like with Tracker, pretty much hooks that kind of came into each other and then just return you an object like with hooks. So that is something that needs to be discussed. Containers are composed using more like wait, is this what's going to happen? Containers. It's kind of hard to really, well, not hard. You just need to make a determination. We need to decide on hooks versus container components. That's kind of what the choice that we have here. Either we put everything into hooks, which is okay, one thing. Also, another thing to consider here is context. Okay, React context to be more precise. And okay, I think that might actually come down to when we are talking about the application data, that we have the context there. So we just put it like into context, and then what we get there is the Meteor instance. You get maybe the router stuff. Okay, well, yeah, that's like another thing. Okay, one step at a time. Normally inside a container, you need to write the following function: composer function to get data from state managers, mapper functions to get data from dependency injection layer. We have some rules on creating a container. There should only be one container inside a single file, and the container should be default export. Composer function and the mapper function should be exported from the container module. Compose function should only use variables coming via props. The mapper function should be pure. If you need to pass application context to a component, do it via props using a mapper. So this is back, as I say here, compose all, and it's all about composition. Here we have context coming in from into the composer. So this is where, here we have, I would say, two new options. And we have here container, what is it called? Component. And then we have, you could say, hooks. Export const, and we can have, say, users, or let's just say news container. And let's see, we have here import news components news.tsx, that doesn't matter, or JSX. Now then, news container. I think we'll definitely need like a context. So use mantra context, which will have, Meteor in there. You no longer need collections. Oh, that might be an interesting concept as well to have there. No, I'm not so sure. Let's I'll try first. Oops, how I would. Okay, I'm pressing page up, page down. in a wrong. So import news collection from da 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 collections news. Let's just do it like that. And now we have here use subscribe news.list. And we have a bit of an issue here because we have to then figure out, we have to use find. Which in this case, I'm using the suspense version, which is not really import, use subscribe, use find from Meteor React Data suspense. I don't think that's the, let's see, let me quickly check. There we go. And if you add here suspense, it gets suspended. So here we have, how could we, posts, and then we have here news collection. Let's just put it like that and sort at -1. So just make it simpler. Hidden calls the onData function. I do wonder with modern hooks how that would go. And then we can do return news posts equals posts, and we are done. We are done for now, at least. So this composer, the thing here is that he has your compose with trackers. So this entire function is in tracker. I do wonder, and this is probably I'll have to get Nacho or Danielson to really look into how it would work with a hook. Because if we can create like a we can do use tracker in hooks. So we would have, so if we have a hook, use data hook, it'll probably have to be use news data. And how would we do these? Oops. Haven't really written that many hooks to be able to tell, but it's just It is. It just looks okay. So it's hook. We can use another hook inside it. We can use state and all the other shenanigans. So well, the thing is that today with using the container components, what I also do here is I have here the if it sounds like suspense, I have here also like the loading and error display at this layer because that's where the data is. So I don't pass loading or that stuff into the component below. So that's where I'm a bit conflicted. And this is where everybody listening in, comes in. What are your thoughts on this? What is the best, you could say, approach, or at least an approach that makes sense to you, or that what they're using? Let me know. So if we wanted to do the hook, the question there is, if we do hook, we definitely have to return is loading. I need to return like the data. So in this case, posts. Can have some sort of use mantra context. We could get Meteor and stuff like that there. But I think in today's day and age, that's to get Meteor, you want to import it. But I think getting that from the context like this, it just doesn't jam with me, especially now that we can do all the imports and it's made to be imported. So that's also a bit out of date, at least by my calculation. And then that also takes care of having to have flow router or anything else, because that comes also as a hook. So that's so if we were used it here, it wouldn't be really, it shouldn't be that much different. Const is loading, and instead we would have, of course, here find. So that would be how it would look like. The thing here that I'm kind of, why I prefer this approach, because it's much more easier to test, stop, and work with. In general, the problem then is, of course, kind of composing things together. So here we can have, news post where you get your everything is clean, but the problem is like each post has then comments, and they have their like own container. You cannot just put them in there. So you have to put in the container to get the data. Unless, of course, you fetch everything here. So we'll have to see how that's if that is addressed, because of course it's things have evolved since mantras were originally written. Application context. Application context is available to all actions and containers. So this is the place for shared variables in your app. These include Meteor namespace, Meteor collections. I think collections might be interesting. I think Meteor namespace, like just to get Meteor use imports, that I think is much more clear than where it's coming from. Local states, yes, that's good. Flow router, that's how flow router used to gonna be, right? If you're going to use React router, then that's that. Any other Meteor package, Redux stores, REST clients, DP clients. Oh, here's a simple application context. Okay, so yeah, you import it here and then it lives in there. It's not going, it's going to work with Flow router. It's not going to work with React router, which uses hooks and needs the context and everything. So not so sure about this one. How to definitely, I think the local state, the different states. I think when you have like packages like it's just imported. Why? Okay, maybe you save a few lines of code, but not too fun of it. Mount is dependency to isolate different parts of your app, including UI components and actions. We use project called React Simple D dependency injection that uses React context behind the scene, access both application context and action as dependencies. Once configured, application context will be injected into each action. That's the first argument of an action. So you don't need to pass the application context manually. Huh. Okay, so first of all, oh no, it's their own project. Which obviously is not going to be maintained anymore. So I would be inject depths, yes. The way this goes, I would be here, replace with hook. And application context, then just create a context. My idea here is that we'll replace this, use React context, top of your app. And you can put in a lot of things in there yourself. So configuring dependency injections. Yeah, I think this should be so. Routing and component mounting node. When we refer to components, we consider both containers and UI components. That might be a bit. Actually, no, that's correct. We normally use router to mount components to the UI. There could be multiple solutions, for example, for router and React router. React. Oh my God, that's an old one. No, we have also React mounter here. The router's only functionality in Mantra is to mount components to the UI. It's just a tool. See how to use slow router as the router. Okay. You need to redirect upon some condition. use an action instead of route options like flutters, triggers, enter. Call the action from component or containers composer function. Libraries. Every app has some utility functions to do different tasks. You can also get them via npm. These libraries will export functions, so you can import them anywhere in your app, including inside actions, components, and containers. When using library functions component, it should be pure. A lot of course, testing. This is like, I think, where really it comes together. Testing is core part of Mantra. Mantra helps you test every part of your applications. Rules we've will be enforced will help you write those tests. You can use familiar tools such as Mocha to perform testing. And then you need test 3 core parts in your app: UI components, actions, container composers, depth matters. So, and then we have some examples there. For the UI testing, we use Ensign. Okay, so I think what we are getting here is really into, and this is kind of, I think, where it comes together. And what Mantra, but the part that I never got to use Mantra for, which is, I think, kind of goes from the testing. Okay, how can we make this easy to test and build together? That's how I'm seeing it. Plus, with the directory layout, it allows for to take like one module from one application that uses Mantra and move it to another module use application, and then the only other thing that you need is just to move the server publication and methods as well, which is actually how I'm using in my applications as well. Mantra modules. Mantra follows module architecture. All the components except application context should reside inside a module. You can create as many as modules as you like and communicate between them via imports. That's sometimes when kind of moving the modules is a bit tricky. Application context is the core of the application. It needs to be defined in a place which does not belong to any module. All the modules can access application context as a dependency, and modules should not update the application context. A Mantra module may contain definition file, is action routes and function accepting the context is the integers file of a module. Yeah, that was, I think, probably things that I've never did when applying Mantra, this part. Okay, implicit modules. If the module has no actions or routes or no need to do any initialization, then it's okay to avoid using definition file. That's probably why. These implicit modules may contain the following: UI components, containers, libraries. Module, containers, UI components, module containers, and UI commands should be able to be imported via ES25 modules. Module can expose actions via namespace. These namespaces are global to the app, and the module should take responsibility for making them unique. Okay, this needs to change. This needs to change. No globals. That's again, the old way. Finally, all these namespaces from each modules are merged and can be accessible inside actions and containers. I think this might be the main thing why we have like the initialization file, so we can access the actions in another place or another module as well. For routing, you can use any routing library. It's okay to have routes definition inside multiple modules if needed. That's actually to do React router. That actually should be the desired one. And so core module, Mantra is nice and modular, and there should be at least one in the app. You call this core module. It's just a simple module, but you load it before any other module. This module is the best place to put core routes, application configuration, other application specific code. So that's where the common stuff is. There are multiple ways to organize module of the app. Appendix C for some of those contexts. Submodules, inside module, you cannot have submodules. So this is a decision made to prevent unnecessary complexity. Otherwise, it's possible to write multiple layers of nested module, and that's very hard to manage. Single entry point with Mantra, we want our apps to be predictable. Therefore, there's a single entry point in your app. That's client/main.js. It initializes the application context and loads all the module in your app. Okay. Yeah, that is the days before we had like React mounting, or maybe actually no, because Flow Router might be doing it differently. So I guess I will have to really look back into Flow Router to see how to kind of mix this together. And yeah, we kind of really are. That's how the modules were kind of loaded in the time. The thing is with React Router these days, you kind of load everything through there. So this is like really super old. So this all needs to be, you could say, scratch and revisited. I will probably have to get the Austro guys to talk with me because they now maintain Flow Router to see how they are doing that. And that's the thing, like React has really this is still from the days where there was quite a lot of integration between the framework and React. So specifically like for mounting and all this stuff. And now React is, just do the initial mounting and then, you just put it to React Router and you're happy. Server-side rendering and so on. Yeah, there's a lot of it will have to be rewritten and reconsidered. Directory layout. In Mantra, we enforce common directory structure. That is the core part. And let me do the software app. The app. Notice section, we only discuss the client-side directory layout. Learn about how to organize the server directory layout. Refer to Appendix B. Top-level directory structure. All Mantra code stays inside the client directory of the app. Inside that, there are usually two directories and one JavaScript file. They are configs, modules, main.js. That's also not how I do it anymore. Configs. This directory contains root level configuration in your app. Usually this is a place to put app-wide configurations which are common to all modules. All JavaScript files in this directory should have a default export function which initiates some task and returns something if needed. So I usually place application context. Modules. This directory contains one or more modules in their own directories. In your app, there should be at least single module, and it's usually named core. This is what usually inside module directories: action, components, configs, containers, libs, routes, and index. Let's learn more about these directories and files. Actions. This directory contains all actions in the module, some directory layout, and it will have tests in there, which is cool. Also, just to say AS 2015 module that exports a JavaScript object with actions. So here it is. So that's just the different actions. These days, I would not do a default export at all. just because also there is a lot of optimization. So if you deprecate one action and then forget to remove it as you remove it this usage, if you have it in default export default, then it will still get exported. While if you have some build tools have if they detect that you are not using it anywhere, it will just remove it from the code and save you some space. So that's definitely what I'm going to change here. Then do no default exports. My nose is itchy. Why? Then in the index.js, we import all the actions modules and aggregate all actions. We give namespace for each module. Again, okay, so you are namespacing that. I'm not really sure that's how it should be done these days. I would just say, just import what you need, and from the place you need it. Don't try to, do magic, because then it's much harder to find where something comes from, also from IDEs. So scratch this. So in the above space, we can post as the namespace for the post action module. These namespaces should be unique across the app. That's a responsibility of the module. Yeah, but if we kind of scratch this, then why? In the directory, we write this for each action module with its name to learn more about this file naming convention. So yeah, components contain UI components of the module. It has a directory layout like this. So we put all those things there. We put in the tests. All the .jsx files in this directory should have a default export. It should be a React class. Can have a CSS file related to these React components, and Meteor will bundle them for you. No. I'm again, in this case, I am against default exports unless you are using lazy loading, and that would then be the container primarily if we would be doing that. So now containers, this directory contains a set of JS files with each of the representing a single container. Each file should have its default export as React container class. Again, in this case, maybe it might make sense to have a default export if it's just the container itself, but no. Also have tests, which contains tests. Configs. This directory contains the module configuration of the app. All the JavaScript file in this directory must export a default function which initiates any task and returns something if needed. That function may accept application context as the first argument. So on. I'm thinking here, but maybe my applications, maybe I'm just doing it the wrong way, but I don't really have anything specific to initialize on like a module when it starts, because what could there be? Maybe some specific library that needs to be initialized, but then I would do that in the component that actually needs that, not On the module, if it was like on the module level, then I would put it into the router for that module. I have to really think more about this, or let me guys know what you think, or if you are using something like that. These configurations can be important called when loading the module. Usually, this is where we keep Meteor method stubs, which are used for optimistic updates. Okay, now this starts making more sense, and I want to actually look at this. Let's see. Method stubs, post. And there has been some development on that in Meteor 3 as well, specifically. So, because if I look, yeah, it's on here on the client, and I should be able to find the same thing. Yes, post create. Um, yeah, exactly. It's pretty much exactly the same. So, yeah. And I want to kind of merge this that, or maybe who knows, maybe it's just because I do have, functions that are both client and server or methods, and then I have some methods that I move just to server. The issue is there is really the module instantiation. If you look here, it passes in the context. Why? I'm missing something big here, I'm guessing, because this just makes it makes sense in the context of that time, not today. Libs. This directory contains a set of JavaScript file which exports a set of utility function. This is also known as libraries. You might write tests for libraries inside. It's called tests. So very rare, but possible. Router. This is a file containing route definition of the module. It has a default export, which is a function. This is typical routes definition. Yes, that's how it used to be back in the days of the flow router. I would still use that as today with React router. This default export is called with a function called inject debs. So again, injecting dependencies. I think really these days the dependencies injections are no longer needed, or am I just writing that it's not needed? So index, this is file module definition file of the module. There is no need for this module definition file if there is no need to do any of the following tasks. To load routes. With React router, no, because you just import the router to the main router. So that is gone. To define actions. again, I'm thinking it will be better just to import them, both also for the IDEs and everybody's sanity, not to go through multiple files to figure out where the action is coming from. And lastly, to run configuration while loading the module. And this is what I cannot understand, or I don't see what it would be. Here's configs, method stubs. But again, the only thing you have to load it because you're passing in the context instead of. Let me think here. The only way we can think of. Okay, I think this is the only scenario that we really want, because then we can have in our application a place that goes, grabs all these these stubs, and initializes them. Okay, so I think we have found found this part. This is the only valid scenario that we can remain here with. So if we can figure out how to do that, kind of how to put it so it does that, and we're fine. In the module definition, .load method gets called when the module is loading, so it's placed to invoke configuration. I think we might have, instead of load, or actually I can probably keep that. So yes, we can keep that, and that's where we put it. But yeah, that's only for the stops, and nothing else really comes to mind, because it's just done in React these days. So a bit out of date here, which makes sense. It's like almost 10 years old document at this point. This is the entry point of Mantra app. It initializes the application context and loads modules for a utility library called Mantra Core. And I think we can. Okay, so it's an npm app. npm. Why is it npm? Oh, that doesn't really matter. Okay. Yeah, I think we can probably do without Mantra Core or lighten it up. Let's see future work. Mantra is a draft, missing pieces. So server-side rendering, yes. Oh, why am I? Soft wrap. That should be the default. Distributing Mantra modules via npm. That's why we have a lot of that stuff. So that's kind of, if you have a lot of the same things they're going on for you. So for that, to do that, we can also have to agree on a router. So instead of flow router, we would have to use React router, or that would be something that would have to be decided on. Standard for styling. It's better to have a standard for styling UI components. Yeah, we need test and composer. Sometimes we can reuse composers for the same function in places. We need to find a pattern for doing that. I think we have a solution hooks in that now. That's kind of what I have here contributing. So appendix A, React containers, meet your basics. Okay, not interesting for us. Server-side directory layout. I think, given that this mantra is specifically for Meteor, this should not be an appendix. This should be own chapter. So this directory layout for a server-side part of your app. This is not a core part of Mantra, but it follows directory layout we use for the client side of our app. So on the server side, we have our main directories, main, configs, libs, publication methods, pretty much how I use it today. We need to also expand on GraphQL there. Let's see what each of these directories and files does. Methods has methods. Using the post.create, that's that's being done. And we have called index, which imports all the other modules and invokes them in default export. So when importing methods, we can do it with a single import. It's a server, so I think on the index itself or on the main, or yeah, you can put it like you put it all. Just do import name of the file in the index, and then that index itself is imported in main, and that way you get all the methods and everything. Tests. Can write tests for methods inside the test directory. For that, it's better to do integration testing rather than unit tests. Back then it was Gagarin. I think today we would use Cypress. Publications directory is FIS method directory, but with publications. Libs, this contains configs. Yes, and then we have main, which kind of puts that together. I am today leaning more towards, instead of calling a function, just doing the imports. What do you guys think? How are you doing the server for you? Organizing modules, single core module, multi-modules, pages modules. So yeah, some pages, they don't have their own action routes or configuration that contains some UI code. Oops, I forgot the soft wrap again. The only contains UI code. These can be either UI components or some containers. So yeah, that's the implicit module. So that's perfect here. Nothing really too much to change here. File naming conventions. I have completely switched on this. I'm like, what is it? Python case. Good. This has too many modules. Actually, no, it makes really sense. Let me pull up here Literary Universe and kind of show you guys how I have it today. So right now I have kind of moved things around. So it's under imports, UI, and here I have the modules. And then I have a bit of an overflow, which I should probably really move to the core module anyway. So something for later refactor. But here, you have blocks. That's its own module. All the blocks functionality is there. You can see I still have here the components, definition, and so on. So that's there. Same thing in the core. You can see components. I have context here. That's a new thing. Hooks and themes. I think themes is just because I wanted to move theme only stuff. So it's just an interesting thing also to tackle there. Should we have components that are just there for the theme, because I'm using style components, so I have just like accordion, but then it has only CSS there. Should we have it as a separate module, or should it be in the core? So I think one thing that we can also say is that the core module should in theory be independent and not depend on any of the other modules. So once it does, then it's needlessly interconnected. I think that's also some interesting thing to add to Mantra potentially. There's files, postfix. I think we can probably figure out. Well, yeah, these naming conventions are going to be a bit a bit a bit bit contentious, bit everybody. Kind of this, if we look at Liter Universe again, we look at my components. They start with capital letter, and yeah, that's where they go. And like another thing also, like, is I can see I have like another submodule here for forms. Not a good one. Definitely not following Mantra here, with having the themes and form. But it's just because there's just so many components that having that in one directory makes no sense, or it's just like it would just be total chaos. Though at the same time, the form component could be moved probably into its own modules. That would be an independent module because it's not a feature module. Yeah, I think that might be the theme. The themes will have to be potentially will have to go in here. It's yeah, we'll have to probably rethink how I have my core module and maybe move like layout to be in its own module and keep here like only the basic shared theme stuff. Forms in its own. For the legal model, I should have probably moved already into. Yeah, that makes sense. Starting to see a new way of structure here in the future. Right, almost 6 o'clock on my time. 2 hours, 10 minutes till 2 hours till I started. I think what really holds the best from this is the directory layout. What fails the most are the things where you have to kind of connect to each other and context management, all that stuff that has really evolved a lot. And that one is what needs here the most work. And I would really love to integrate Solid into this just because of how similar it is. So it should be an option to kind of add it there. And for small apps, there are not going to be that many modules really. See what, in my case, what it comes down to, why I'm saying, I have a theme module and or not even like theme module that needs to remain in core, but I have like a layout module and forms modules just because it's technical depth, let's just say, but that should be kind of their own in their in later universe, and that will reduce the core module quite a bit. So I think the big thing that really needs to be shown in the examples and expanded on is testing. It's and this is kind of more into the future of Meteor itself, to have a nice way to show the testing. And I think mantra could be the, hey, this is how this is why we are building, have containers for the data fetching, all that stuff, and then the UI stuff, so that you can really separate and test these components independently, mock them properly. And I really want to see, the big question I have here is React hook mocking. How to mock React custom hook return value. Mocking data fetching React hooks on dev2. Let's see the Stack Overflow first here. Use client React, blah, blah, blah. On each time collection my values. Load the hook as a module. Yeah, no. Unless import all as hooks from module path, module name, chess.spy on hooks, use client React, mock implementation. Okay. Okay, so he means it like as just like a regular import. Chess.mock. Okay, so we can just use the just spy, and that's an option. Let's see, what about here? Use SVR, blah blah blah. And here's the code comment page if you wish to use this hook. Simplified. So you have here from testing library. It should render in a loading state, render home. Yeah. Jest.mock use games return mock. Okay. Where jest mocks are hoisted to the top of the test, but written as it is above, it won't cause any issues with non-initialized variables since the mock variables only gets used when the use game method is invoked. So it's to write the following test cases. Mock.games. Two and okay, I am not mock.games 1, 2. Okay, not to be in document. Okay, so yeah, this is why I say it's confusing because what if I just want to have one test that just has loads this and here's just mock.games. I don't follow. I don't follow by behalf. I would have to write it out. So can you spy on and so on. So it's but there's quite a few questions here as well. So I think that's definitely something that Mantra would have to explicitly address. I think Meteor itself also kind of needs to like go much more into it and make testing Meteor stuff super easy, and especially like for mocking. So, but that's a different story for another day, which I will end here. Everybody, thank you for watching. Hope here it was a trip down the memory lane, or you learned something interesting that you can implement in your application. Definitely for me, both of those cases, and I think I'll be kind of typing away on my version of Mantra, especially upgrading it with React Router, making it really trying to figure out also why there was a lot of the initialization. I think that was primarily because of Flow Router and the routes in Flow Router, which, as I said, today with React Router is not really necessary anymore. Instead, you just import the the router file in the module and into your main module or wherever you are using that. So, for example, I have like forums which I'm entering into multiple places. So what I do is, whenever I put forums somewhere, I put in the router, and then all the stuff is already there. Because through the router I also pass in some additional things like what is it for and other things to identify the forum. So yeah, and I will have to probably look more into method stubbing as well on the client, and I've noticed some how should I call it, some new information out on Meteor as well. So yeah, that's that. Once again, a reminder: if you want to support me in what I'm doing, you can sponsor me on GitHub. I will be introducing this week broadly my retainers. So that if you are like in a company, and especially if you had Meteor 3 upgrade issue, I think my retainer is for you. Or if you are very much focused on your product development and don't have time to kind of watch what's happening in the open source, again, that's where I come in to keep you uh, informed and make sure that you don't have any nasty surprises. Or if you just want to, chat with me and look at what kind of, do a review of your application, or have like some questions about Meteor, I also have available consultations. So call.com/storyteller. So you can also get me there as well. So that's that. I have 2 more streams coming up before I go to Japan. So in 3 weeks, 1 to 3 weeks, I will be in Japan, or I will be going to Japan, to be more precise. So I'll be probably at this point on a plane somewhere, and getting ready for the overnight trip. Wow. So more information on that, and looking for shows that I'm going to do. I will announce them probably tomorrow. Either it will be both just Hacktoberfest work together, so it will be just whatever I have on my mind that day, or maybe we can continue Mantra as well. I think that might be a mix. I think I'm going to do Hacktoberfest next week, and then I'm probably going to come back to Mantra. That's at least how I'm seeing it right now. So once again, if you are interested about the retainers or anything else, please let me know, and I would greatly appreciate your sponsorship so that I can make open source more awesome. And with that, once again, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you either on Friday with Meteor Dispatches or next week